in order to enable us to understand the next one a little better. What happens is, he says, Atman is nirvikara. It absolutely undergoes no changes. Atman cannot be happy this moment, unhappy at another moment. Atman cannot have pain today and have pleasure tomorrow. It is always in the same state. It undergoes no changes whatsoever. But then we see in practice, we say, I am happy. Then what do you mean? When I means, you don't mean buddhi, you don't mean your intellect, you mean I. You mean myself, you mean the Atman. We say, I am happy, I am unhappy, oh, I am so pleased. So all these changes would seem to belong to the Atman. How do you say that Atman is changeless? Then he gave a rather a scientific and technical process. What happens is, whenever your senses happen to come in contact with an object, my eyes now has come into contact with that fan. It is seeing the fan. Then what happens is, from the intellect, wave starts. You know why the wave starts? The buddhi is made up of avidya or ignorance or maya, whatever we call it. And that maya is made up of three gunas, three constituents. They are known as the Sattva Guna, the Raja Guna, and the Tama Guna. When one sees, that stimulates one of the gunas, depending on his previous conditioning, whether he liked to see the fan, whether he used to like the fan, whether he disliked the fan, depending on such various factors to the previous conditioning. That very fact of my seeing, that stimulates a wave from the intellect. That wave, it is called vritti. Vritti is a wave of this mind, which goes, it just breaks the covering which the fan had, which made it invisible all the time, till I saw. And then it envelops it completely, so that takes the shape of the fan. Whatever you see, it is not a fan, it is only the wave of your intellect which has covered it, and it is in the shape of the fan. Then, yes, you are able to see the fan. Then how did you understand? Because awareness, consciousness, understanding means knowledge. So how do you get that knowledge? Yes, this is a fan. How do you recollect and how that knowledge comes? Buddhi being an insentient object, obviously it doesn't have any knowledge at all. But the Atman's rays, its reflection comes and it just hits on the wave which is enveloping it. And thus both together what happens is, the one takes the characteristics of the other. This is called the mutual superimposition. It is known as Paraspara Adhyasa. There are several types of superimposition. Now, I am sitting in a train. Another train is passing through in the other track, then it looks as if my train is moving, the other train is stationary. So the movement which is a characteristic of the other train has been imbibed by my train. So it looks like that. So this is an one-way superimposition. It is simply called as adhyasa. The mutual superimposition is in the case of Rajju Sarpa, the rope and the serpent. You saw the rope, but you mistook it as a serpent. Now what happened at the time? Why that mistake took place? It was because you find a real existence, a being of a serpent. If it was dead, you would not have cared. So it is alive, it exists, it is. So, where from that isness the serpent got? The serpent was never was. So, where from its existence is being, that idea, where from has it borrowed? It's borrowed from the rope. So, the characteristic of the rope is, that rope is, it exists. So that existence of the rope has been taken on loan by the serpent. Now, this is not one way. The rope has now assumed the form of a serpent. It is something which is terrifying you. It has assumed such a form, the front portion is a bit raised, and you think, oh, it is having its food. See, it is an expensive wood. It is waving like that, it's good. Then it should be definitely a cobra and nothing else. So now, the quality of the serpent has been superimposed on the other one. So mutually, the quality of the rope, that is the isness, has been imbibed by the serpent. And the serpent has imbibed the other one. And thus both together, the form of the rope and the fact that it looks like a serpent, so naturally all the characters of serpent you are imagining, oh Lord, it should be extremely poisonous like, because its food is so expensive. If one should buy it, I don't think there are any chances of a survival. That's what I think. So this is called the mutual superimposition, where there is an exchange of characteristics between the substratum and the appearance. There is a mutual exchange of the characteristics between the substratum, the base, which was the rope, and the mere appearance. And both things seem to work together. It is impossible for both together to be there. When you see the serpent, that you could not have seen the rope. When you see all the rope, there was never the serpent. So these two things can never be together, but still it looks that both of them have collaborated, and with their respective mutual exchange of their characteristics, it is holding up an appearance of a serpent. So similarly, buddhi is only an appearance created by ignorance. There is nothing called an intellect, there is nothing called a body, there is nothing called a mind. So this mind, intellect, body, these are all mere imaginations, the conceptions due to avidya. Atma alone is. It is non-dual. So, that which is not, it is appearing to be is. Why? Number one, because this buddhi has taken over the isness of the Atma, so this is one adhyasa. Not only that, Atman is full of self-awareness. It is Sat, Chit and Ananda. It is existence, awareness and bliss. So, it has taken over the existence from the Atman, so Buddhi seems to exist on its own. It gets the reflection from the Atman, that reflection lends that knowledge to it. And now, it is this mind which is changing from time to time. It says now, oh, I am very happy. After half an hour, I was having some stomachache. How are you now? Oh, it's very bad, lousy like, I am not feeling well at all. I am unhappy. So the mind has immediately changed. But then as the Atman and the Buddhi have exchanged their respective characteristics, you get the knowledge that I am suffering from stomachache and I am unhappy. So when the Buddhi is working, it is the Buddhi which is giving you all these ideas. It is the intellect or the mind which is undergoing all these changes of happiness and unhappiness, the pain and the pleasure, but due to the mutual superimposition, both together have given you the knowledge of the pain was there, so the ishness it has taken over. And I am aware of the pain. There are two things. The moment you say, I am happy, there is happiness, and I am aware of the happiness. There are two things. So that awareness, that knowledge, it comes from the Atma. Whenever you say, yes, there is a fan, you mean, there is a fan, and I know that there is a fan. Both are implied together. If you never had the knowledge or the awareness that there is a fan, you would never say that there is a fan. You would only say something, that's all. So that knowledge that this is a fan, it has been inculcated in you because of the reflection from the Atma, which is working from a wave of physics. A wave of that intellect which is called the vritti, it has come and revealed the fan. But you never knew that there was this fan. The knowledge that it is the fan, I know this is the fan. So that knowledge, aham janami, I know. So this knowledge has come from the Atma. So it looks that as if Atman and knowledge are working together. It is impossible. Atman is all light. Why? Buddhi, which is made up of avidya, is all darkness. How can darkness and light exist together? How can this serpent and the rope, how can they exist together? It is only a mutual superimposition, and as such it looks, somebody does, it looks as if somebody else is doing. What is adhyasa? Adhyasa has been defined as atad vastuni tad bhava. That is, tad bhava. You are having a thought, bhava. What it is that? That means a serpent. But is it really a serpent? It is not tad vastu. It is not that thing which you are thinking. It is atad vastu. It is not a serpent. So on something which is not a serpent, to superimpose the idea of the serpent, that is called the adhyasa. Then again what has happened is, sometimes it is a one-way traffic, where only one's qualities are superimposed on the other. But there is another adhyasa, where the quality of A is imposed on B, and the B's qualities are imposed on A. There is a mutual exchange which is called the Paramacharya, the mutual superimposition. So, now he is going to say, again he is confirming, because now the question has been raised by the opponent. he says, look here, the buddhi is jada, it is insentient, it has no consciousness, it is not aware that it exists, nor is it aware that you all exist. That is what you call as jadavastu. Jadavastu means which doesn't have the knowledge of its own existence. I am not a jadavastu, I am a chaitanya, I am all consciousness because I am aware that I exist. And I am also aware that so many people of you are existing before me. So when buddhi is jada, jadavastu, can this be happy? Can this be unhappy? Can this feel the pain? I feel it. So can it feel the pain? No. So how is it possible that you say the Atma doesn't have any change? So I am having the changes of happiness and unhappiness according to my prarabdha, according to my karma which have been earned in the previous birth. So in the previous birth I have done an action which merits a punishment. I am getting the punishment in the form of a disease or an ailment, a disabling disease. So I am feeling unhappy. Now, how can the punishment can affect an insentient object like the buddhi? So obviously, buddhi cannot be the experiencer of pain and pleasure. Because it is something which is insentient, it has to be the Atma. Apart from that, in the normal parlance of words which you use in daily life, we say, I am happy. I don't say my intellect is happy. I am saying, I am having a pain. I don't say that my intellect is having the pain. It is feeling the pain. So, based on these two counts, again the operant is insisting, the experiencer has to be the Atma. Whereas this seems to be logical if you accept it, then it is not possible that the doer is the buddhi and you are experiencing his results. How can it be? Somebody does a job and somebody else gets the reward. It can't be. So whoever is the doer, he has to be the experiencer too. So as he has proved that the Atman only has to be the experiencer, he comes to the conclusion, it has to be also the doer, the one who performs the act. It has to be the karta. This is the false logic of the opponent, whom we call it as Purvapaksha in the technical term of Vedanta. Purvapaksha means we raise an objection as if there is an opponent sitting before me and he is putting the question. It is being done by the author himself because he doesn't want to leave any scope subsequently for people to say Shankara wrote some nonsense. Look here, it is not logical. So he has raised himself all possible objections against it and he answers them. So he says in 26, Atmano vikriya nasti buddher bodho na jatvapi jiva sarvam alam jatva karta drashte dimukhyati. Just like a maxim, very clearly Shankara affirms, Atmanaha vikriya nasti. Atman doesn't have any change, modification. Vikriya means modification or change. Atman can never change. It doesn't have any changes, it doesn't have any modifications. Atmanaha vikriya. Then, so it cannot say I am happy, I am unhappy. Happiness and unhappiness cannot be the quality of the Atma. Then number 2, buddher bodho na jatoti. You are aware of the pain and you say the awareness has come from buddhi. Buddhi or the mind cannot have the awareness because it is insentient. It is not aware of its own existence. What knowledge can it have? It is neither aware of you, nor is it aware of somebody else. So obviously it cannot be aware of the pain and pleasure too. So it cannot have the awareness. So awareness is never a quality of mind. Vikriya or modification is never a quality of Atma. It is a quality of the buddhi. The buddhi goes on changing its color. It becomes happy, it becomes unhappy, it goes on changing its color. And that has been superimposed on the Atma. When Atman is all knowledge, it has been superimposed on the buddhi, so that you think there is the buddhi which is able to recollect and understand, yes, this is a fan, I know this is a fan. And thus the mutual superimposition has taken place. Atmanaha vikriya nasti. Because the Atman is of the nature of existence, awareness and bliss. And it is marvelous. And it is eternal. And it is always of the same nature, absolutely no changes, there is no growth, there is no decay, absolutely no type of change whatsoever takes place. Buddhehe bodha jatvapi. Jatu na means never, never. It can never have that awareness. Bodha means knowledge or awareness. So bodha buddhehe nasti. The mind here, the buddhi, doesn't mean the intellect. As I said, the word buddhi and mind are being used loosely in exchange for each other. So here it only means the mind. Because it is the mind which is happy, which is unhappy, which changes. It is not the intellect. At the level 1 itself you start having all agitations. Now, Jivaha sarvam alam yatva karta drashteti. Now the individual soul, it thinks, what is individual soul and how does it differ from Atma? The electricity which is everywhere coming from the source where it is being manufactured, it is the akhanda electricity, infinite electricity with the infinite power. It comes and it occupies this bulb. When once it has occupied this bulb, it is not aware that I am the infinite electricity which is everywhere, not only in Tiruvannamai, the entire Tamil Nadu, I am there. It has forgotten its connection with the whole. It thinks that it has been cut to size. It says, I am a zero watt. So, the same infinite electricity, when once, because of its identification with the bulb, begins to think that I am finite, it has become a jiva. So jiva is that individualized soul which, having identified itself with the body, considered itself as being limited by time, space and causation. The Atman is not limited by time. What do you mean? The Atman had been there 20 crores of yugas back also. And the Atman will be there after another 20 crores of years also. So it is not limited by time. While the Jivatma which is identifying that I am the body, this body is not going to exist after 100 years even. Nor is it existed 100 years back. So this has been limited by time for about 75 years or 80 years of its life. That's all. So it is limited by time. What do you mean by limited by space? Atman is everywhere. Atman is here now at Tiruvannamalai at this place. At the same time it is also in California at Steve. It is also at Amsterdam in Holland. It is everywhere. But when you take me as a jiva, as a finite being, Shantananda is now only at Tiruvannamalai. He is not at Madras, he is not in the Himalayas, he is not in New York, he is not in California, he is not in Chicago. He is only here, so he has been limited by space, while the Atman is unlimited. And the jiva thinks, I am born. I was born in 1927 or 28 or 29. And the jiva thinks, now I am about 75, I am going to die soon. So, you are subjecting yourself to causation. The cause and the effect. That something is being born and then it leaves, again it is going to be born, it dies. So these are all the law of causation, the law of karma which operates. So we think that we are limited by all these things. Atman is unlimited by all these things. So this is the difference between jiva. The pure Atman, once it comes into all the bodies, then its reflection takes place in our mind, which contains all our precondition. The precondition is different from different persons. And naturally, the moment it comes inside, it begins to identify itself with the body, and then it says, I am Shantananda, I am Natarajan, I am Brahmamurti, I am Mr. X, I am Mr. Y, I am Mr. Johnson. So it has begun to identify itself with the finite body and mind, your body-mind complex, which is finite, and as such, the one which is omniscient, the one which is omnipotent, the one which is omnipresent, it has brought itself to a stage where it is limited by time, limited by space, and limited by objects. How is it limited by objects? Now I am here. I am not here because here is the mind. So mind, the object, has restricted the scope of my being here. So I am only here, I am not here, here is the mind. Similarly, I am not here because Mr. Manishandra, he is there. So I consider Manishandra as different from me, and as such I say I am limited by that object. That's all. This is called Desha Kala Vattu Parichet. The limitation by Desha, Kala and Vattu. By time, by space, and by objects. So this is what is called the jiva. So jiva is only the reflection of the Atman, and it is posing as a jiva. It is the ego which says, I am Shantananda. Because Atman can never be an individual. It is the universal. It comprises you, I, every leaf, every twig, every animal, every worm. What is it that does not comprise of? While the individual soul is said, I am this man with a white beard. So, this is jiva. Jiva is the reflection of that Satchidananda, of that Atman, which is of the form of pure knowledge, pure consciousness, which is the form of pure existence, which is the form of the unadulterated, infinite bliss, the eternal bliss. That is what it is. But having come into the body, it has identified itself with them, and It is considering itself. Who is considering itself? Atman cannot consider itself. Atman is ever knowing. How can it consider itself as somebody limited? So what is considering itself is this buddhi. The buddhi got a little knowledge from the rays of reflection, and then it is posing that as if it is Chaitanya, as if it is consciousness, because it got a drop of the ray of consciousness. It is only a reflection. So the reflection of that consciousness, which is called Chidabhasa. Abhasa means which is not the real light, which looks like a real light, which appears like a real light. So this word Chidabhasa you will find. So Jiva is not the Chit, but Jiva is the Chidabhasa. Jiva is not that full awareness, it is only the reflection of that awareness. So I just wanted to make the meaning of the word Jiva or Jivatma very clear. So Jivatma is an impostor. There is nobody called a Jivatma. Jivatma is a zero, a non-entity. He possesses everything. He possesses Shantananda, he possesses Mr. Johnson, he possesses Mr. Rich. So Jivaha, when Atman doesn't have any modification and there is no awareness for intellect, which is always insentient. So the Jivatma, which has come through the reflection of the ultimate Atman, Sarvam Alam Gyatva, it has understood, it has recognized, it knows that I am that Atman's part. But still, it is very clever, it's a 420, so it poses as if it is an entity, and then it says, I took my lunch, I gave the lecture. So, it says, I am the doer, it says, I am the seer, it says, I am seeing the fan is there, I am seeing the fan, I am seeing this object, and this notion of a cognizer, the notion of a doer, it is being assumed by the Jiva. The Jiva assumes it from the knowledge of the Atman, whose rays are following. Otherwise it will have no knowledge. It cannot say, I know. It cannot say anything. But it is posing as a Jiva. It is posing as a Jiva, as the limited finite being, and it is also acting as the doer and as the seer. So this is sheer appearance, this is sheer this thing. The entire thing is being done by the buddhi, which is insentient, which is activated through a ray of the consciousness, and Atman doesn't do anything. It is nishkriya, it is nirvikara. Nishkriya means it is actionless. It doesn't have any activity whatsoever. And you cannot say that I went and had my lunch. I means you are meaning the Atman. How can Atman take lunch? It cannot, because it is nishkriya. Karta drashteti mukhyati. Mukhyati means the jiva got deluded. It is the same as that Atman. It is a ray of that Atman, but due to the will of the Lord, because of the Maya, because of the superimposition which has taken place due to Maya. Why that superimposition took place? Why should you consider the rope as a serpent? Perhaps 40 people came, 20 people didn't mistake it as a serpent. They said, oh, this is only a rope, they came away. The 21st person only got the superimposition. Why did it happen? There is no answer to it. Well, you will know it when you get out of the ignorance, you come and do all the research and get your PhD on it. But when you come and when you see, there will be no serpent to do research on. There is ever the rope, and rope alone is there. What research are going to do? The rope never became a serpent. The serpent never came from outside. Then what are you going to do about it? So this is avidya. This is Maya. Sarvam alam gyatva. Alam means completely. Atyartham. Very well having known. Karta drashteti mukhyati. Karta means doer. Drashta means the seer, the cognizer. Mukhyati means moham gacchati. It gets into a delusion, it gets deluded. Deluded why? Because the jiva has never been a jiva. It is the original Atman itself actually. After all, a ray, it is very much the original only. Even if it is a drop of Ganges, it is Ganges only. It has got all the holy qualities of the entire Ganges in that drop itself. But then that drop, having come away from the Ganges into my small vessel, it has considered itself a small drop, and it is bound to the Ganges. Oh, Mother Ganges, please save me. Little knowing that it has got all the powers of the Ganges, and it is nothing but the Ganges. So it gets deluded. Now, we come to 27. Rajju sarpavadatmanam jivam gyatva bhayam vahet naham jiva paratmeti gyatasche nirbhayo bhavet. We are coming to an important fact. If you really see all our life, we are beset by fear from all souls. Well, this year my factory works very well. I am going to earn a lot of profit, but I am afraid, oh Lord, the income tax chaps are going to be after my blood, because I am at that scale where 90% will have to be given to the income tax, and I do the entire thing. I sweat night and day, and I have to pay 90% of the income tax. Nothing doing. So you get the fear. Then you are having a nice boy who has gotten merit. So he has got from the Harvard University free scholarship. He is going to America. You are afraid that fellow may not marry some American, then all my relatives will curse me. What? Being a Brahmin, you have married an American, so you are an outcast. You are ostracized from our society. So he is afraid of ostracization and blame from his own society. So again that fear comes. So throughout your life, everywhere there is fear, fear of security. Today you are yearning, and your sons and wife are insisting you are becoming old, you can't even sign. Why don't you already, you divide the property and give it to us, you have some small amount which is sufficient for you. You are afraid. The moment I give all the money, these fellows will never care for me. Tomorrow if I am laden with arthritis, the fellows won't come and give me a cup of water. So long as the money is in my hand, they will really, Daddy, how are you? Daddy, how are you? Everybody will come and ask. So he doesn't want to give, he is afraid. How many people are afraid of their own sons? I know of a chap, when I was in East Africa, who complied with the police for police protection. He says, my son comes and beats me for money from time to time, so I want a police guard in my house. He is afraid of his own son. So, the entire life, our life is riddled with fear complex. And this fear complex is because of our thinking that somebody is different from me. The day you know that everybody is myself, then who is there from whom you are going to be afraid of? Are you ever afraid of your own self? Not at all. So the Upanishad says, Udaramantaram Gurudev Atatasya Bhayam Bhavati. This is the Taittiriya Upanishad which says, you make even a little difference, This man is slightly different from me. He is my brother. He is my own brother. We are twins. We are alike. But he is a twin. He was born 1 minute later. He is a twin. The moment you make that little difference, you begin to be afraid. This fellow is a favorite of my father. He may not take away all the property and leave me penniless and a pauper. So, even a little difference, if you make that it is not me, you are always afraid of it. So the entire thing is due to the ignorance that there is only one Atman which powers everybody, and there is nobody called an individual Atma. There is no individual, there is only the universal. So long as we are not aware of it, and we make distinction between individuals and individuals, between thing and thing, naturally you are subject to the bhaya, that is fear complex. He says, the moment you think that you are not the universal, you are an individual, you are not the Atman, you are a Jiva, then obviously there are so many individuals, you become afraid of them. It is just like when there is only the rope and rope only, there is nothing else, but you imagine a serpent, the moment you imagine something different from the substratum, well, you are gone. Immediately you get perspiration. My Lord, I was about to place my foot. Oh, the Lord saved me. It was Bhagavan Ramana who saved me. Otherwise today I would have gone. So, this is what has happened. So she says, Rajju sarpavadatmanam jivam gyatva bhayam vahet. The moment you consider the Atman, the universal self, as the Jiva, as the finite individual soul, then Gyatva, you just think like that, you are cognizing the rope as a serpent. Then what happens? Bhayam vahet, immediately it produces fear in you. The moment you thought that it is a serpent, it has started reactions in you, the fear complex, the adrenaline is flowing freely inside our glands, and we are feeling nervous about it. So all these things happen. Bhayam vahet. Bhayam vahet means we are subject to fear. How? He is giving an analogy. Rajju sarpa vati. Vati means just like. Just like you mistook a rajju. Rajju means a rope. Just as you mistook a rope as a serpent, if you had seen that it is only a rope, you would never have bothered. If only you have recognized the substratum would not have caused you any fear. Because you made a superimposition, it is a superimposition which was due to ignorance, because you didn't know what it was, you didn't know its real nature, because you are not aware of who it was, well, that has caused all the trouble. So, Rajju Sarpavati, it is just like the rope and the serpent. Naham Jivaha, the moment you know, Gyatas Chet, if only you come to know, Gyataha Chet, Chet means if only you are able to recognize, no, I am not a zero watt, I am that infinite electricity which is everywhere. It is I who has gone into the 1000 watt. It is I who am in that 200 watt. I am that infinite electricity who is everywhere, not only in Tiruvannamalai, perhaps in the entire India, or perhaps in the entire world. I am that electricity. The moment it knows, it need not be afraid. It need not be jealous. It need not be afraid of any competition. Naham jivaha paratma. I am not the jiva, I am that supreme soul. I am that supreme self, the supreme universal self, who is all, who is holistic, who comprises of everything that I have seen, everything I have heard and not heard, everything is comprised in that, and that is the supreme self, the Paramatma. The moment you know that, nirbhayo bhavit, you are rid of all fear. No fear remains, you become fearless. Nirbhayo bhavit. Yes, this is an important stage has come. In the entire Upanishads and Vedas, the final stage is called Jiva Brahma Aikyam. That is the identification of this individual entity with the Brahman, the supreme soul, the supreme self. This is the ultimate aim of the entire Upanishad, the entire Vedanta, and then you become the Brahman. That's all. Supreme. That is how it comes. So we become fearless in this world. We alone are. So with this, we stop. Oh. Not comprehended truth. Rajju sarpa vadatmanam jivam yatva bhayam vahet nakam jiva paratmeti yatasche bhajo bhavet. The universal consciousness, the totality, when it gets embodied, when it comes into this bulb called the body, different bodies of different colors, different castes, different qualifications, different times. When once it comes into this, it forgets its origin, which is in the infinite, which is not limited by time, not limited by place or regions, not limited by objects, not limited by any position. But unfortunately, due to the process which nobody has understood fully, their body is a subject of constant change. And the Atman says, oh, I am going to die, I am already 73, 74, I don't know when, I am almost at the door of death, and I say I am suffering from various ailments. Thus, the Atman which is pure, which cannot be subject to any disease, whatever you may do to the bulb, how can it affect the electricity? There cannot be even a single scratch on the electricity. Electricity cannot be injured. You can stab the bulb, you cannot stab into the electricity. The same thing with Atma. So, Atmanam Jivam Jyatva. When one considers himself as a Jiva, Jiva means what? The soul which has become individualized, which is considering itself as an individual with a name and form, and we call it Dehabhimani. Dehabhimani means the one who identifies itself with this body. I have the connection with this body, I am this body, and this is my Atma. So we consider the entire complex and the assembly of the body, the senses, and the mind, all things put together as you, as yourself, as your Atma. Then what happens? There are two things. One is, unfortunately, this Jivatman, it is not the Atman at all. It is only a drop of the reflection of the rays of that Atma. But this so-called Atma is the ego. It has come from nowhere. It has no existence at all, but still it plays so much. It is that which makes you think that I am happy, I am unhappy, I am ridden with number of diseases, I am old, I am young, I am eating, I am sleeping. All these concepts are emanating from the so-called ego, which is calling itself the I, but which is not the real I. It is just a reflection, a drop from the ocean of Atma, which when coming through the buddhi or the intellect, it activates the mind. The mind acts as if it is a knower, as if it knows everything. And that is how the jiva has got deluded. It's a delusion. So, naturally when you are deluded on seeing a rope as a serpent, you get afraid. Similarly, when the jiva has come into the body, it is afraid. Oh Lord, I am subject to death, I am subject to diseases. The robbers, the thieves may come and take away all my possessions. Somebody may set fire to my house. So I am afraid all the time. Bhayam vahi. Not only this, you are afraid of every action. Oh, I am doing something like a correction in order to get my son get a pass in his 10th standard. I am going to the examiner and giving him some 20,000 rupees, please. He is my only son. Please see that he passes. And then I know that I am doing a bad deed and I am afraid that I am doing something wrong. And he may do something still more wrong. I may become a murderer, or I may be a dacoit, I may commit a murder for taking away the purse and all the ornaments of the travel. Then I am afraid. I know inside that I am doing something wrong. I am afraid of the other world. I am afraid I may go to hell. The hellfire is a very, very bad imagination. And it looks as if it is real life. So you get all types of fear. Bhayam vahe, atmanam jivam jnatva. Considering the self as a jiva. Jiva means a finite being who is identifying himself with the body, who is just a reflection of that supreme self. Rajju sarpavati, just as you consider a rope which is lying in the dust as a serpent lies, then you get the fear. In similar way, bhayam vahe, you get afraid as a jivatma. Every minute of your life goes in insecurity, in fear. But naham jivaha paratmeti jnataschi. Jnataschi, if only you get the realization by meditating, by contemplating, after having heard the words of wisdom from your Guru, from the scriptures, and going on thinking of the logic of it, thinking of the reasoning of it, and then constantly remembering that I am the Atma, I am not the Jiva, I am the Infinite, I am the Supreme Consciousness, I am all, I am not different from anything, there is nothing which is different from me, everything is me. When don't you know that? Jivaha Paramacharya Jnatva. When the jiva knows that I am not the individual, when once it dissolves its individuality by surrendering itself to the universality and it says, Lord, you alone exist, I do not exist, I am a fraud, I am a non-existent fraud. He knows, you can tell that, and thus merges this universal consciousness. Jivaha Paramatmeti Jnatastet Naham Jivaha. I am not this finite being, I am not this body, I am the supreme consciousness which is everywhere and which has become all and which is of a holistic nature. know that? Nirbhayo bhavai. There is absolutely no further fear. There is no more sorrows, no more hardships, no more suffering, because Atman cannot have any of them. Atman is always pure, Atman is always in one mood, Atman is happiness itself, not ordinary happiness. We have happiness for which there is no equivalent word, and that is why we call it the bliss. Bliss is not the most intense happiness, it is something beyond it. It is something which cannot be described in words, it has to be